What is up, Transformers? It's Dr. Kathleen Nash with Total Transformation, and as promised, I got it done. I've gotten the explanation on why your body may be struggling to lose weight and to keep that weight off. So if you're somebody who has been reducing their calories, or you've been exercising, or most likely you might have even tried both, and your weight has not moved, or it's moved very slowly, or it's come back, then this is the video for you. In this video, I'm actually going to take you behind the scenes and let you listen to me educate one of my clients. It's the kind of education that can change your life, can change how your diet's going, and get you to your goal faster. This video is also going to explain why, when I put you on a specific food management plan, it is critical that you follow the plan to the letter. A bite of this and a bite of that is not going to cut it, and this video is going to tell you why. So check it out. The explanation, the center meat of the video, is about 20 minutes long. Please send me your feedback right in the comments below. Tell me what you think. Tell me if it helped you, and I look forward to seeing you soon. So whenever any human being eats, whether they're skinny, whether they're fat, whether they're anorexic, whether they're obese, doesn't matter. It's very similar to bringing in groceries from the car, right? Like you go and buy groceries at the grocery store, you bring them in, you put them on the kitchen counter, right? Mm-hmm. Now you're a woman, so you're totally gonna get this. When you bring the groceries in and put them on the counter or put them on the kitchen table, whatever, what's the next thing you do with those groceries?
Put them away.
Bingo, right? You put them away,
right?
You put them somewhere. You're either gonna put them in the pantry, in the refrigerator, if you're gonna wanna get to them quickly.
Right.
And you'll put stuff in the freezer that you want to last longer.
Right.
Okay. The body does the exact same thing. Every time you eat a meal, the body is going to recruit some workers to put that food away, okay? It'll put some of it in like a muscle and a liver sugar, and it's going to put some of it in his body fat. Now, the hormone that does that is insulin. It's his job every time you eat to break that food down and to store it to use later, okay? Now, if insulin is working properly, it's only going to take him about 2 to 3 hours every time you eat for him to do that. Does that make sense? So, for example, if we look at this picture here, just look at the blue one, right? Mm-hmm. So the insulin's going to go up a little bit, and it's going to last about 2 hours at the most 3, and then it goes away. This is important because when there's insulin in your blood over a certain number, your body can't burn body fat. It flat out will not do it. It doesn't matter if you're active. It doesn't matter if you're jumping up and down like a loon. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. The magic number is 30 micro units. Okay, so if somebody measured your insulin, and if your insulin was over 30 micro units, then your body is in storage mode, and it will not burn fat. So it's got to get down here. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so for the average person, or the person that doesn't have any problems with insulin or their normal weight, like Taryn, the skinny blonde thing up there, okay. So that's her pattern, right? Goes up a little bit, lasts for about 2 to 3 hours, okay? Depending on what's going on inside of our body, when insulin has to put the groceries away, it can behave in a worse way than you want it to. Sometimes, if you can make the pattern, you can make the insulin go up 2 times higher than it normally does. And the way we do that is by eating shit food. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. So that's going to be, there are certain foods that make insulin respond very high, right? Bread, cereal, grains, pasta, sugar substitutes, most processed food, because they put all kinds of crap in it, right? So insulin has no choice but to go up higher than normal. Now the problem is when it goes up higher than normal, it lasts longer than normal, okay? So that's one way that we can make our insulin behave abnormally, right? The blue is normal. This is pattern 1 of an abnormal, right? The second way that we can jack up the insulin and mess it up is body fat percentage. So what the heck does that mean? That means, let's say I have somebody like Taryn in one chair, and I have Sarah, my other girl, she's in the other chair. They're both different weights, right? One is thin and one is still fat, right? I give them the exact same meal. Let's say I give them a Happy Meal, right? I give it both to them, they eat it all. Sarah, her insulin is gonna go 2 to 3 times higher and last 2 to 3 times longer simply because she's fatter. That's it.
Does that have to do with the fat cells?
Yeah, the more fat on the body, the more resistant to insulin the body is. Isn't that horrible?
Yes, that
because
is horrible.
It is, right?
Double
because
punishment, right?
Yes, because now it's going to take even longer to go away. But the skinny one's going away. Hers is going away after that much in a Happy Meal. And Sarah's is going all the way over here. And as long as that insulin is in the blood, can the body burn any fat? Say no. No. So Sarah's not burning any body fat while this is going on simply because the insulin's too high in her blood. Where Taryn's off and running already burning body fat. Okay? And then the third way that we mess up there's 3 ways. Okay? So the third way we're going to mess up that insulin, it says over fat duration. What the hell does that mean? That means how long have I been fat?
Oh, well, hell of a long time.
Right. The longer you've been fat, the more and more this has happened. So the more and more insulin the body needs more and more insulin to get the job done. Now, instead of, look how small normal is versus this. So if you're somebody that eats crappy foods on a regular basis and you're fat and you've been fat a long time, you're screwed. Now, it takes, where the normal person who doesn't have all those issues, it only takes them 2 or 3 hours to get it to go away. Your body, it takes 6 hours every single time you eat before your body is even in a range to lose body fat. And for most type 2 diabetics, this is what's going on, is this red pattern. So remember I said that number has to be below 30. That's been documented, okay? See this pattern here? So even when they're in between meals, are they ever going into the fat burning zone? They're never in it. They're never in it, Sharon. This is what's happening to you.
You know, I knew something was going on because I've exercised for 40 years.
Right.
And
that has nothing to do with it.
And I'm really good, but nothing ever happened.
No, and that's why.
Nothing.
No, because the reason you're going is because you were thinking, okay, well, if I burn more calories, my body will get it from fat and I'll lose weight. It seems logical, but that's not biological. That's not how the body works. Okay. So the way the body stores fat, accumulates fat, and the way it loses fat is all based on hormone. And the hormone is insulin, right? Mm-hmm. And there's 3 ways that we can make our insulin behave in an erratic manner. We can continually eat crappy foods that make it go up too high, which makes us gain some body fat. And then the body fat itself is going to complicate matters and make it go up too high. And then the longer we're fat, that's going to complicate matters and make it go up too high. This pattern that you're seeing, this, if I draw an arrow like this, that's called insulin resistance. The more we're going over here into this diagonal way, we're becoming more and more insulin resistant.
So my cells is not letting the insulin in? Is that what's happening?
No. So what's happening is your body, instead of requiring, say, like in this pattern, when they eat, it only takes about 60 units of insulin to get the job done, right? That blue pattern. Mm-hmm. Yours, on the same meal, takes 200 units of insulin to get the job done for those 3 reasons that I mentioned, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so here's what happens. If you imagine that insulin is kind of like a bouncer at the door to a really awesome club burn fat, okay? Mm-hmm. And he lets people in, you let certain people in, but he's not letting you in. And every time you eat, you put that bouncer on duty for 6 hours, and he's standing there, and he's like, I'm not letting you in. And you're standing in front of him, hopping up and down on a treadmill and on a recumbent bike, and you're lifting weights, and you're like, but don't you see? I need to get in there, dude. I'm doing whatever you need me to do. He's like, I don't give a crap. I'm not off duty for another 6 hours, so you can do whatever you want, but I'm not letting you in. Where somebody like Taryn, that bouncer goes away in a couple hours, and he's like, yeah, knock yourself out, have a good time. But not your body. So we're going to use an example, right? We said that the normal person, we have the fat person, right? The normal person, their body, it takes about 2 hours to put the food away, right? And the fat person, we said how long?
6.
6 hours, right? Mm-hmm. When would be maybe the first time you ate?
You mean during the day?
Yeah. When was your first meal?
My first meal would probably be, well, after I come home from the gym, probably about 8:30.
Okay. And then when was your second meal?
12:30, 1 o'clock.
Okay, so we'll say 1.
Okay.
And then when was the final meal on
like
average?
Around 5:36.
Okay, so we'll say 6.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Did you eat anything after that? Like a snack? Did you have the snack or anything afterwards?
Well, it did depend, because like I said, I'm craving constantly. So if I did, I would, try to stay within my food thing.
Right. But would you eat something sometimes?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes.
So on the sometimes, What time roughly would sometimes happen? 9 o'clock? 8:30?
Oh, no, I'd say probably about 8-ish.
Okay.
7:30,
So let's say
8-ish.
8,
Uh-huh.
right? And that was the snack.
Right.
All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at how each individual, based on how their body's insulin is responding, let's see what happens. How many hours a day is each person burning body fat? Okay. So the normal person, they eat at 8:30. They go for 2 hours, which means it's going to go until 10:30, right? And then they're going to go from 10:30 until 1 before they eat. So their body's going to burn fat for about 2.5 hours. Can you see how I got that? Okay. And then they ate at 1. That's going to go till about 3. And they're going to go from 3 to 6 before they eat anything. So their body burned fat for 3 hours, right? And then they went from 6 to 8, but they ate something at 8, so there's nothing there. They didn't burn any body fat there. And then they ate something at 8, and that might take them until 10 o'clock, right? And then they're going to go from 10 p.m. until 8:30 burning body fat, right? So now we're looking at 10.5 hours there, which means the normal person in this scenario is going to be burning fat 10, 11, 13, 16 hours a day. Okay? Now we're going to make the heavy person eat the exact same food. Okay? So the heavy person eats at 8:30, but there's goes 6 hours, right? 8:30, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1. They don't even begin to burn body fat until 2:30. Oh, but they ate at 1.
But I ate.
That's right. So, did they burn any body fat?
No.
Not at all. Okay? Then they ate at 1. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, but they ate at 6. Did they burn any body fat?
No.
No. And isn't this a bitch?
Oh.
And but see, nobody's teaching you this.
No.
But I'm going to teach you this. I'm going to teach you how to fix it. So now, during the most time, this is when you're active. This is when you're walking around, when you're cleaning the house, when you're driving, hanging out with your friends, and you're not burning a thing. Not a thing, right? So then 6, we eat. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh, but you ate at 8, so now it's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2. So not until 2 a.m. does your body finally get in a position where it can burn fat. So your body's going to go from 2 a.m. until 8:30, which is 6.5 hours. On the exact same food, diet food, your body is only burning fat 6.5 hours a day, and the skinny bitch is burning 16 hours a day. How flippin' unfair is that?
It's shitty.
How shitty is that, right? It is.
The thing is with me, like if I don't have protein every so often, my body really does.
That's because of your insulin.
That's because
you're insulin resistant. As your insulin comes down, the reason you're feeling shaky like that is because this is why, like, heavy people, you see heavy people, I mean, it's a stereotype, but it's true. Heavy people are always eating, and heavy people are always eating a lot, right? And we look at them and we might judge them, like, do you not know what you're doing? Or why are you, right? We make all these judgments. Now, here's why they are biochemically doing that. Would you agree that a fat person probably has too much insulin in their blood?
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes,
okay?
yeah.
And when they have too much insulin in their blood, can their body get to any of that body fat they're lugging around? No. So what happens is every time they eat, all that food that they eat, their body's insulin quickly puts away, stores it as fat, and won't let them get to it. So it's kind of like buying groceries that you plan on eating and using, putting them in cabinets, and then somebody locks all the cabinets. But you still need to power this heavy body through the day. It's still got to walk and beat, and it's got to think, and it's got to do, and it needs energy to do that. But if all the energy you ate has been locked away from it, then what's it going to do? It's going to turn around and make you hungry.
Right.
Because it needs the energy. It needs to fuel itself, but its hormones are so whacked out that it can't get to the energy that it broke down and stored. That's why they eat so much, and that's why they eat all the time. They're not doing it because they're like, I feel like trying to reach 400 pounds. It's because they don't know that the hormone in their blood is taking all their food and locking it away from them so they can't get it.
I mean, I read something somewhere, because I said I'm always researching stuff about diabetes, but I read this one doctor making this statement that diabetics usually feel like they're starving all the time.
Yes, and this is why. And that's why. Because your insulin, and then unfortunately, your doctor, so if you look at like insulin, so if you look at type 2 diabetes, what type 2 diabetes really is an insulin resistant problem, right? It means your body is resistant to insulin,
Right.
Okay? That's its problem. Okay? Is it's just not responding to insulin properly. And then the symptom is high blood sugar. That's just a symptom. It's an indicator that the body is resistant to insulin. Okay? For example, this is very similar to somebody having a symptom of a headache. How doctors treat it is very similar to somebody coming in with a symptom of a headache, right? So the cause of diabetes, the cause of the disease, is that your body does not respond to insulin quickly, right? And too much insulin makes the body have all these problems, okay? And one of the problems is that it can't control its blood sugar, so we see high blood sugar, okay? But it's really this problem. But let's say somebody goes to their doctor and they say, "Doctor, I'm having headaches." Now, the smart doctor will want to find out, why is this person having headaches? Because the cause of the headache will determine how I'm going to treat it. Is it you need your eyes checked, like your prescription's old, or maybe your eyes are getting blurry, and that can cause a headache? Do you have a bad tooth or some decay in the tooth? Well, that means you're going to a dentist, because that can cause a headache. Do you have a neck bone out of place? That means going to a chiropractor, because that's what's causing your headache. Do you have a hatchet sticking out of the back of your head because somebody hit you? That's going to the emergency room. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And so the treatment will change depending upon what caused the headache. The bad doctor, when their patient comes in and says, "Doctor, I'm having headaches," will do this. "Here, take this drug." Right? They don't find out the cause, and they only work on the symptom. Well, that's not going to fix the cause, so will the headaches ever go away? Maybe, but probably not. In our country, and actually all over the world, the way we treat diabetes is we go after this. Patient comes in, they get a blood test, and the blood test shows that their A1C, right? Their A1C is a little too high. So they say, "Oh, you're pre-diabetic." But what they're not testing is how much insulin is cruising through the blood trying to manage that number. They just look at the number, right? They just look at high blood sugar. They don't look at, well, how resistant is the body to insulin? They just see, well, this number's too high, so we're going to treat this. "Here, patient, take this aspirin." But instead of calling it aspirin, they call it metformin, glipramide, right? Or some other medication. Some other medication.
Right.
Do they touch the fact that this person's body is resistant to insulin? No. So the problem continues. Then later on, now maybe they have 2 or 3 medications because the blood sugar is still going out of control. It'll be managed for a while, but it goes out of control. Why? Because they're not addressing the cause, right? And then finally, and this is the part that I think is incredibly stupid, if the body is resistant to insulin, that means it's already secreting a lot of insulin and the body just doesn't give a crap. So their response is put the patient on medication and then give them extra units of insulin. Why would you give that person even more insulin if their body is already resistant to insulin?
That's what I've been reading.
It's ridiculous.
They keep increasing it.
Then they keep increasing the units of insulin.
Yes, I keep reading
because they're treating the symptom, which is the high blood sugar. While we care about that, we already know that if we can correct this insulin resistance, this will go down on its own. That's what we're going to do. And so what we would begin to see is your A1C number starts to respond. The waist size changes because insulin tends to make the body store fat in the middle.
Got it. There.
Right?
Yes.
And so we would expect to see the waist size shrinking because that means insulin's coming down. And the weight's coming off when you get on the scale. That's what we expect to see, right?
Okay.
Okay.